Today, let's make a jacket for your dog. Welcome, I do sewing and DIY related content, and today we're doing a pattern review for Mccalls 7816 for this Easy Dog jacket. Now, there are different sizes that they have provided from small to extra extra large. I measured from my dog's collar down to her back to figure out what size she was. She was a size large based on where she fell on that measurement chart. So once I had that figured out, I then went to the pattern, cut out all the pattern pieces with the fabric, and then started the process of doing this. Now, one thing to note is that you do need a moderately stretchy fabric, so a knit, and there is information on the pattern for like how much stretch it would need to have, so you can make sure you're using the right fabric. Now for this, there's about 21 steps in total. Overall, not too difficult. We're going to be starting with the back, but I will say that the back does involve, the first step is to add a buttonhole. So if you are unfamiliar with adding buttonholes, you're going to be marking where the buttonhole will be going. So I use this pink chalk, and then I went over to my sewing machine, set up the buttonhole foot, set up the number, and then I'm just going to begin the process. Now this is a knit, so it's slightly more challenging to do a buttonhole on, but I have a whole video and blog post on how to make buttonholes if you need a little bit of help and assistance. Once I had the buttonhole done, it was then time for us to start adding the two sides of the jacket, with right sides together, matching it up, being sure that you are matching the markings. The markings are very important in this pattern, so be sure at the very beginning you take the time to add those. Once I repeated this for one side, I just copied those same steps and did it for the second side of the jacket so that both would be done, and then we'll be taking a seam along either side. For patterns like this, I do like to get a lot of the steps sort of prepped and out of the way, so I'm going to be doing the next steps as well, where we're going to be taking the legs and then we are matching these with right sides together for that short edge, and we are just going to be taking a seam along there as well. So there's going to be two legs, part of the front part of the jacket, so we are going to be matching this up for both of those legs. And then lastly, we are going to start working on the cuffs. So very similarly, you're just folding these over with right sides together to create a little cuff portion that will be eventually sewn onto that leg that we did earlier. So I like to just get all of these prepped. Now for these seams, I am going to be using my serger. If you do not have a serger, that is no problem at all. You can definitely use a zigzag stitch or a like lightning stitch, some sort of stretch stitch. It's going to give you the same results. I personally chose my serger this time. It's a little faster. I haven't gotten to use it in a while. And for me, sometimes the serger just lets me get really back into sewing and excited about it because of how quickly everything comes together. So these are the only reasons I use my serger. If you don't have a serger, do not let that deter you that you cannot make this pattern. You definitely can. So for the cuffs, once I got that side done, you're then going to fold these over so that you create the actual little cuff look, and then you're going to be taking a seam around there. This is a little tricky just because of how tiny this cuff is. I would definitely say if you're using like the small or the medium pattern, this could be a really hard step. So really just take your time, and if you are somebody who's a brand new beginner, especially with using knits, I would say maybe to stay away from this pattern until you get a little bit more of experience with knits under your belt. Once I had all that done, we're now going to go back to the pattern pieces, and I'm going to start on the hood. So there's two pieces that you cut out for the hood, and we are just matching these with right sides together and then pinning up along that curved edge. So this is kind of like the back of the hood. So we're just putting these so that they are coming together, and then we're going to take that seam. In addition, I'm going to start on some other pieces as well. So we are going to be adding the cuffs into that leg portion. So for this, you really have to stretch your fabric to get the cuff to fit. And so really want to be sure that we're highlighting that this needs to be stretchy fabric from the beginning. If you try to do this with like a non-stretch, these steps are not going to work. It can take a little bit of time to get it to really stretch around there, and if you are somebody who has arthritis or bad hands, this can kind of hurt your hands a little bit, but it will fit. In addition, I am going to get my waistband pattern piece, and I'm going to be folding this over very similar to how we did the cuff, so folding this all up so that we get it with wrong sides together this time. And then I'm just going to be taking a seam all the way along the top portion, so that edge that I am pinning, I'm just going to be taking a seam right along there to hold it all together. Once I had all this done, I'm just going to go back to my serger. Again, you could use your sewing machine with the stretch stitch and just sewing this all into place. So this way everything is nice and ready to go. So the hood now is completed, we have that portion done, and then I'm going to go through on the cuffs. The cuffs were challenging, so this is what I'm talking about, that if you had like even smaller pieces, this could be really difficult to put together. And it did mention doing a top stitch around there. I skipped it because it was going to be really difficult with my sewing machine. I tried to do it and it just wasn't turning out correctly. So now that I have the two legs done, it is now time that we can add these to the main portion of our jacket. So I'm going to be matching these up with right sides together. So where those seams are, just matching those first. And then there are notches that we took for those markings when we first cut this out. So you're going to be matching those up as well to be sure that you are doing the correct side on the front. So now I'm just going to go through, pin this up for both sides of the leg for the right side as well as the left side, and then we'll just be taking a seam all the way around. So now I'm going to set that aside and I am going to go back to the hood. So at the top portion of the hood, we are actually taking a little hem. So for this, you're just going to go through and you're going to be folding this up 1 inch. So we do 1 inch first, and then after you have folded everything up 1 inch, you're then just going to go back through and fold over that top portion 1/4 of an inch. So basically what we're doing is making a rolled hem. If you had your iron, you could also press all of this out. The pattern does say to press it. My iron was not working the best, so I did just kind of do like a little hand press, and especially since this is just for my dog, I was not too worried with like super crisp seams for this make. But once I had that done, I then went to my sewing machine and just took a stitch to hold that hem in place. Now I did use a walking foot, which made this so much easier, and I have a whole video if you're interested in how you use a walking foot, but it just makes it a little easier to work with knit materials. So this is what that hem now looks like. I did use a straight stitch since that part's not going to be like stretching itself. Then for adding the legs, I'm just going to go through and sew all of this in place. I went back to my serger, and then once I had that done, I'm just going to be attaching the hood to the jacket. So for this, just matching right sides together as well as matching your notches, and just attaching this to the neck portion of the jacket with the other edge of the hood so that we're getting all of these to come together into one piece. And then I'm just going to go through and sew all of this up so that it is all connected. And one thing the pattern did have you do is after you did that seam, and then wanted you to top stitch it down. I did do this for the hood portion. It looks really nice. I'm happy with how it turned out. So now it's just time to add our waistband to the bottom portion of our jacket. So for this is again a piece where a lot of stretch is needed. So I decided to do this by matching up both edges and then finding the middle of my waistband and matching that as well. So going on both sides and then matching the middle with the middle of the jacket, and then you really have to stretch. So it will fit, but it does take some time to get it all to stretch all the way around, making sure it's even, and then you're just going to be sewing that into place to make sure that everything is staying exactly as it should. Then you're going to go back through and on your sewing machine just top stitch that. So again, using a straight stitch, I just top stitch this. It turned out really nice. I love how it looks, and I'm really excited that I gave it that little more of a professional touch. So last but not least, it's time for us to add our zipper. Now, a couple things to know about the zipper. First, I did get the wrong size, so be sure you get the correct size zipper. Mine's about 1.5 inches too short, but since it's for a dog jacket, I don't care. And then for the zipper, you need a fully separating zipper. So that's important so that you can get the jacket on and off your dog. For it, you're just going to be matching with right sides together, one edge of your zipper, and then sewing that into place. You could use a zipper foot. I also did just use my walking foot, and it turned out just fine. Once you have that sewn in, you're just going to be folding it so that it looks as it would like from the outside. And then we're just going to be top stitching this all down so that it has that nice clean look and the zipper isn't going to be folding around. So once I had it all pinned up, I'm just going to go through and take that top stitch. This is really one of those final stitches, so be sure that everything's coming together really well. You don't see any raw edges and everything looks nice and clean. Once I've done it for this one side, I'm now just going to go through and repeat all of those exact same steps for the other side of the jacket. With this, if you have your zipper pull, just be sure you're kind of adjusting it along the way so it doesn't block your seam. And here is what my completed jacket looks like. So you can see it has the little buttonhole, it has the hood on top. Everything came together really nicely with it. It looks really clean. I don't know if my dog is going to like it, to be honest, but I love it and I think that it looks so fun and perfect for her. Would I recommend this for a beginner? Maybe if you're making some of the bigger sizes and you want to try getting started with knits, I think it's okay. But a really small or medium, that could be difficult, especially if you're not used to working with knit fabrics. Here she is though, wearing the jacket. I know she looks completely still in some of these videos. She doesn't move that much when she wears clothes, but it does fit her and she is able to move around in it, which I love. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe and let me know what you want to see next.